wealthy and arrogant man bets he can date a poor and unattractive woman and transform her into someone elegant and sophisticated in just a few months. The night was lively at the city's most exclusive club. Arthur Montenegro and his millionaire friends gathered around a poker table, surrounded by luxury and the constant sound of laughter and toasts. It was a typical night for them, full of jokes, business stories, and trivial competitions, until the conversation took a more challenging turn. "Arthur, you always brag about getting whatever you want," Henrique said with a sly smile. "But do you think you could transform a woman who's completely out of your standards into someone you consider ideal?" Arthur raised an eyebrow, slightly intrigued by the provocation. Gustavo, another friend in the group, seized the opportunity to make the conversation more interesting. "I'm talking about you dating a poor and unattractive woman, someone you wouldn't normally look at twice, and transforming her into someone refined and beautiful within 6 months." Arthur looked around, meeting the challenging gazes of his friends, all waiting to see if he would accept such a bold bet. Gustavo's challenge was clear and straightforward, not just to transform someone externally, but to also be romantically involved with her. A slow smile formed on Arthur's lips, the typical smile of someone who loves a challenge. 6 months? Is that it? You guys think I can't completely change someone and date that person as if she were my great love? Henrique nodded, provoking further. Exactly. We want to see you genuinely involved, Arthur. We want to see you date this woman and prove you can transform her into someone we'd all consider a lady of your caliber. After a brief silence, Arthur laughed confidently and slapped his hand on the table. I accept the bet. In 6 months, I'll transform any woman you choose into a sophisticated beauty, and I'll date her as if she were the love of my life. You'll see. The friends celebrated, laughing and high-fiving each other. Henrique, maintaining his sarcastic tone, looked around until his eyes settled on a woman who was cleaning a nearby table. It was Clara, a waitress at the club, dressed in a simple uniform, her hair tied up messily, and a tired expression on her face. How about her? Henrique suggested, pointing to Clara. She's perfect for the challenge. Poor, plain, definitely out of your circle. Arthur looked at Clara for a moment, analyzing her appearance and posture. Clara was someone who went unnoticed by everyone, always busy with her work and without time to worry about appearances. She was exactly the opposite of the type of woman Arthur usually got involved with. Deal, Arthur said, accepting his friend's challenging looks. 6 months to transform Clara, the waitress, into a woman you'd never recognize. And yes, I'll date her as if she were my ideal partner. The next day, Arthur decided to start getting closer to Clara subtly. He began frequenting the cafe where she worked, always choosing a nearby table to watch and casually chat. At first, Clara seemed suspicious of the sudden attention, but Arthur's persistence and charm began to soften her defenses. During one of these visits, Arthur made an unexpected invitation. Clara, you seem to work hard all the time. How about we take a night off to relax? Dinner with me tomorrow? Just to chat. I promise it will be a nice distraction. Clara hesitated, looking at him with a mix of surprise and caution, but eventually accepted. During dinner, Arthur showed himself to be caring and interested, asking about her dreams and struggles. He was careful never to show any sign of his true intentions, making her believe his interest was genuine. After a few such dates, Arthur decided to move to the next phase of his plan. On a quiet evening, while they were walking through a city park, he stopped and held Clara's hand, looking into her eyes with a sincere expression. Clara, I know this might seem a bit sudden, but I really enjoy spending time with you, he said, feigning a touch of nervousness in his voice. I'd like to try something more serious between us. What do you think about giving this a chance? Would you be my girlfriend? Clara was surprised, feeling her heart race with the proposal. She never imagined that a man like Arthur Montenegro could be interested in someone like her. With a shy smile, she agreed, not knowing that it was all part of a cruel game. Arthur, on the other hand, felt a strange sense of satisfaction when Clara accepted his proposal. He knew this was just the beginning of the challenge, but somewhere inside, a small part of him wondered if this game would turn out to be more complicated than he had imagined. Clara had no idea she was being manipulated as part of a bet made between millionaire friends. For Arthur, this was a chance to prove his point, but also a test that could change much more than just her appearance. Let's play a little game with those who only read the comments. They won't get it. Comment chocolate down below, and only those who made it this far will understand. Now let's continue with the story. Arthur Montenegro was convinced that transforming Clara would be easy. He believed that with money and charm, he could mold her into his idea of what a woman should be, as if she were just another high-risk investment. But soon, he discovered Clara was different from everything he had planned. Her resistance to change was as strong as his determination to keep her on the right path. The transformation began with a visit to the most prestigious beauty salon in the city. Clara walked in with hesitant steps, her eyes scanning the luxurious environment that seemed to scream she didn't belong there. She saw the impeccably dressed stylists around, the wealthy clients exuding superiority, and for a moment, she almost wanted to turn back. "Clara, trust me. This is for you," Arthur said, placing a light hand on her shoulder, trying to convey a sense of security that Clara clearly didn't feel. She turned to him with a direct look, her eyebrows furrowed, a hint of defiance in her expression. "For me or for you, Arthur? I can't help but feel you're trying to turn me into something you need, not what I want to be." Arthur was momentarily speechless. He wasn't used to facing resistance from anyone, especially from a woman who, in his eyes, should be grateful for all the attention and effort. He regained his composure, forcing a smile. "I want to help you become the best version of yourself, Clara. You deserve all of this and much more." Clara remained silent, but her eyes stayed fixed on Arthur, filled with a mix of doubt and skepticism. She sat in the salon chair, and the hairstylists began working, cutting and shaping her hair into a modern, elegant style. The sound of the scissors cutting away strands of her past seemed as sharp as the change Arthur was trying to impose. When she finally looked at herself in the mirror, Clara saw a stranger. The reflection showed a beautiful, sophisticated woman, but one who seemed distant from the person she knew. She ran her fingers through her hair, feeling the new texture, and a flicker of discomfort crossed her face. "Is everything okay?" Arthur asked, watching her every reaction with an almost calculated intensity. Clara took a deep breath before answering, still not taking her eyes off the mirror. "Honestly, I don't know. This woman in the mirror? She's beautiful, but she's not me. You want me to become something I'm not, Arthur. Who really benefits from this, you or me?" Arthur felt a slight tightness in his chest at Clara's honesty. He hadn't expected her to question his intentions so clearly. He smiled, a smile that, to Clara, seemed just a bit too strained. "Clara, this is so you can see your true potential. I want you to realize you can achieve anything, that you can belong to this world I'm trying to open up for you." The following days turned into a race to fit Clara into this new world. Arthur took her to the most exclusive fashion stores in the city, where famous stylists surrounded her, offering advice on which clothes would best highlight her figure. But the more Clara tried on expensive clothes and refined accessories, the more she felt like she was becoming a doll in Arthur's hands. In one of the luxury stores, Clara tried on an elegant red silk dress that highlighted her new silhouette. She turned to Arthur, who stood a few steps away, evaluating her with a critical and thoughtful gaze. Suddenly, she found herself bursting with frustration. "Arthur, I feel like a doll in your hands," Clara exclaimed, her voice filled with a mix of anger and vulnerability. "A piece you can shape, dress, and show off to your friends. What's your real goal here? You want to turn me into something you think I should be. But what about me? Where do I fit into all of this?" Arthur tried to stay composed, but something in those words struck a chord. Clara was exposing a truth he had been trying to avoid, the truth that she wasn't just an experiment. Taking a deep breath, he responded, "Clara, I see in you a potential that deserves to be revealed. I want you to have the same opportunities I had, to be recognized and respected by everyone. Or is it the potential you need me to have to prove something to someone?" Clara shot back, her voice now trembling with anger and emotion. "I'm starting to think this isn't about me at all, but all about you and this twisted game of control." Arthur felt a flash of irritation. For a moment, he lost his calm facade, and his eyes hardened. He was used to having everything under control, and Clara was clearly slipping from his grasp, questioning every move he made. The conflicts between them escalated during a dinner at one of the city's most upscale restaurants. As Arthur explained the complex rules of etiquette and proper behavior for a gala event, Clara dropped her utensils on the table with a clatter that drew the attention of the entire room. "This is all an act, isn't it?" Clara said, her voice low and full of anguish. "You want me to fit into your world, but I feel like you're also pretending to care, pretending this is about me when it's really all about you." Arthur felt a chill run through him. For a moment he couldn't maintain his charming exterior. Was what Clara saying true? Was he really pretending? He regained his composure as quickly as he could, forcing a confident smile. "Of course I care, Clara. I want you to see how amazing you are and how much you can achieve." But Clara wasn't convinced. For the first time, she began to see cracks in Arthur's perfect mask. He wasn't invulnerable, nor infallible. She started to realize that behind his control and confidence, there was something he was hiding from everyone, maybe even from himself. The emotional battle continued during one of the dance lessons Arthur had arranged for Clara. As they moved around the dance floor, trying to practice the steps, Clara abruptly stopped and gently pushed him away, her face a mix of anger and confusion. "Tell me the truth, Arthur," she said, her voice breaking with a mix of desperation and challenge. "Why are you really doing this? What are you trying to prove by investing so much in someone like me? What's your real game?" Arthur felt the ground shift beneath his feet. He looked into her eyes and knew she was too close to discovering his bet, the secret that kept this transformation charade going. He tried to find the right words, but this time, they weren't easy to come by. "Because you deserve more, Clara. I want you to believe you're capable of anything." He hesitated, looking at her with an intensity he couldn't control. "And maybe I'm discovering that I need you more than I thought." Clara blinked, surprised but still skeptical. She sensed there was some truth in that confession, but she didn't know if she could believe it. Arthur's gaze left her conflicted, unsure if he was truly opening up or just playing a part. The weeks that followed were an emotional roller coaster for Arthur Montenegro. He had underestimated Clara, thinking he could easily transform her into a sophisticated lady, but she was proving to be much more complex and stubborn than he expected. For Clara, each step in her transformation was a struggle to maintain her own identity as the world around her changed. One evening, after an intense session of etiquette and social behavior lessons, Arthur took Clara to an upscale restaurant, a place where only the city's elite gathered. Clara looked elegant, wearing a long red dress that highlighted her figure and drew admiring glances wherever she went. But her eyes, though more confident, still carried the shadow of lingering doubt. Trying to lighten the mood, Arthur raised his wine glass for a toast. "To your incredible transformation, Clara. You're becoming everything I knew you could be." Clara slowly raised her glass, but her eyes never left Arthur's face. There was something different in her gaze, an intensity that made him shift uncomfortably in his chair. "Arthur, I'm becoming what you want me to be," she said, her voice low and firm. "But tell me, is this really what you wanted all along? To turn me into a version of yourself?" Arthur was taken aback by her bluntness. For a second, he lost control of his expression, and Clara saw a slight crack in his mask of self-assurance. He quickly regained his composure, but now his eyes avoided hers. "Clara, you're seeing this all wrong," he began, trying to keep his voice steady. "I want you to see your own worth. The potential I know is inside you. You're so much more than you realize." Clara interrupted him, placing her wine glass on the table with a firmness that made the liquid tremble. Her face was serious, her eyes fixed on Arthur's, as if trying to pull out a hidden truth. "That's not what this is about, Arthur. I feel like this is more about you, and less about me. It's like you're trying to mold me to satisfy some need of yours, something you're not telling me." Arthur opened his mouth to respond, but the words got stuck in his throat. For a moment, he felt vulnerable, exposed. Clara's words pierced through his armor, and he didn't know how to react to this new version of her. Stronger, bolder. The tension between them only grew in the following days. One afternoon, while they were in a designer store, Clara was trying on an exquisite dress under the watchful eyes of the salespeople and Arthur. She looked at herself in the mirror, her fingers brushing against the silk fabric before turning to face him. "Arthur, tell me something," she asked, her voice filled with frustration. "Why are you so determined to change me? Am I a real woman to you, or just an experiment to prove you can control anyone?" Arthur felt the impact of her words like a punch to the gut. He had never been questioned so directly, especially not by someone he thought he was molding according to his plan. He knew he had to play his cards carefully, or he risked losing all the control he thought he had. "Clara, you don't understand. I never wanted to control you. I want you to see that you deserve to be in this world, that you belong here just as much as anyone else," he replied, but his words sounded weak, like a desperate defense. "Or is it that you just want to win a bet, Arthur?" Clara shot back, her tone full of barely contained anger. "Because that's what it feels like. It feels like this is all just a game to you, and I'm the pawn you're moving around to satisfy your ego." Arthur's face tightened, and for a second, a spark of real pain flashed in his eyes. Clara was getting too close to the truth, and he felt like he was about to lose everything if he didn't regain control of the situation. That same night, after yet another bitter argument, Arthur took her for a walk in a deserted park, trying to calm things down. They stopped by a lake, illuminated only by the light of the moon, the silence between them heavy and filled with unspoken words. Clara took a deep breath, trying to control the torrent of emotions she was feeling. She turned to Arthur, the moonlight reflecting in her eyes, full of a mix of pain and disappointment. "Arthur, please, tell me the truth," she said, her voice breaking a little. "Why are you really doing this? What's your true motive for investing so much in someone like me?" Arthur felt like the world was crashing down around him. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could answer, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He quickly answered, and on the other end was Henrique, his voice smooth and sarcastic. "Hey Arthur, how's the project going? I bet that girl still has no idea she's just part of a bet for you, right?" Clara heard every word, and time seemed to freeze. Arthur hung up the phone quickly, but it was too late. She stared at him, eyes wide with shock, pain, and growing fury. "Project?" Clara repeated, the words slipping from her lips like poison. "I'm a project to you, Arthur? Just a bet?" Arthur tried to reach for Clara's hand, but she pulled away like he was a snake. "Clara, let me explain, please. It's not what you think. In the beginning, yes, it was a bet, but I've changed. My feelings for you have changed." Clara slowly shook her head, tears silently streaming down her face. "So it's true. All of this, the transformation, the smiles, the kind gestures, they were just a lie to win a stupid bet." Arthur felt crushed by his own actions, the guilt suffocating him. He never imagined that the game, which started out of pride and vanity, would end up destroying what he had come to truly value. Clara gave him one last look, her eyes filled with a sadness he had never seen before. "You played with my feelings, Arthur. You made me believe in something beautiful, something that could have been real, and all you did was use me to satisfy your pathetic ego." She walked away, striding quickly and decisively, while Arthur stood there, feeling like his world was crumbling around him. He realized that the most important transformation was his own, and that was what he was most desperate to hide. Arthur understood too late that Clara was much more than a bet. She was the only real thing in his life full of masks. And now, he had lost the only chance to be honest, not just with her, but with himself. The silence that enveloped Arthur Montenegro after the last argument with Clara was almost unbearable. He knew he had made an irreparable mistake, but he also knew he could no longer escape the consequences. While Clara tried to deal with the devastating disappointment, Arthur, for the first time, found himself in a vulnerable position, on the verge of losing not just the bet, but something much more important, Clara. Clara, on the other hand, was conflicted. She didn't know if she was more furious with Arthur for playing with her feelings or with herself for believing in his facade. In the days that followed, she isolated herself, immersed in her thoughts and confused emotions. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman she no longer recognized, a creation of Arthur, molded to meet the expectations of someone who manipulated her. Determined to confront the truth, Clara decided she needed answers. She sought out Arthur, finding him alone in the luxurious office of his mansion. When she entered, he looked up with a mixture of hope and despair. But Clara's face was a mask of coldness and determination. "Arthur, I need you to be honest with me, for once in your life," Clara said, her voice firm yet vulnerable. "What's the truth behind all this? Why did you really come into my life? I want to hear it from your own lips." Arthur felt a lump in his throat and his body tense up. He knew he couldn't escape any longer. Clara deserved to know the truth, even if it meant destroying any chance he had with her. "Clara, at the beginning, it was a bet," he said, lowering his head in shame. "I made a bet with my friends that I could date someone outside of my usual type and turn her into a perfect lady in 6 months." Clara stared at him, her face paling. The pain in her eyes was like a broken mirror, reflecting all the illusions Arthur had created and were now shattering before her. "A bet?" Clara repeated, her voice breaking with disbelief and anger. "So, all this time, everything, it was just a game to you? I was just a toy for your inflated ego?" Arthur moved closer with a desperate look. "At first, yes, it was. But Clara, that changed. You changed everything for me. I never thought I'd care so much, but now, you're more than just a bet. You're the only thing that matters to me." But Clara wasn't ready to believe any more empty words. She shook her head in disbelief, taking a step back. "No, Arthur. You can't just say your feelings changed and expect everything to be fine. You made me believe I was special, that I had value, and it was all just to use me." She turned, walking to the window, taking a deep breath to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. The air seemed too heavy, the weight of Arthur's lies crushing her will to stay strong. "You never saw me as I am, did you?" she said, her voice trembling, turning to face him again. "You only saw the challenge, saw the chance to prove you could mold anyone into your image. But I'm not a project, Arthur. I'm a person, with dreams, fears, and feelings." Arthur reached out to her, his face crumbling in despair. "I know, Clara. I know that now. I made a terrible mistake, but you have to believe my feelings for you are real. Please, give me a chance to prove it. I don't want everything to end like this." Clara stared at him for long seconds, and he could see the internal battle she waged between her pain and the remnants of love she felt for him. She was so hurt, so betrayed, but there was also a part of her that desperately wanted to believe it wasn't all in vain. "Arthur, you destroyed everything that could have been beautiful between us," Clara said, her voice laden with a sadness that seemed impossible to heal. "I'll never know if what you feel is real or just another ploy to win. I can't trust you anymore." Those words hit Arthur like a sharp blade, cutting through all the layers of his pride and self-confidence. For the first time, he found himself naked before someone, without his defenses, without his masks. He realized there was something he couldn't control, something he couldn't buy or manipulate: Clara's feelings. In a last desperate move, he grabbed her hand, looking directly into her eyes with a vulnerability he had never shown before. "I know I can't undo what I did, Clara, but let me try to fix this. Let me show you that, as wrong as it was, my heart has changed. You changed me." Clara let out a shaky sigh, gently pulling her hand away. "Maybe, Arthur. Maybe you've changed, but the truth is, even if you have, you broke me first, and that's something I don't know if I can forgive." She turned to leave. Each step she took felt 1,000 times heavier than the last. Arthur stood there, alone in the crushing silence of his off, realizing that the most important transformation wasn't Clara's, but his own. A change that came too late. As Clara walked away, a tear rolled down Arthur's face. He never imagined that the real bet he was making wasn't about changing Clara, but about changing himself. And now, losing Clara, he finally understood that the one thing he truly wanted could never be won by force. Arthur Montenegro, the man who always got what he wanted, now found himself defeated by the one thing that really mattered: the love of a woman he had underestimated. The days following the devastating confrontation in Arthur's office were the hardest Clara had ever faced. She isolated herself from the world, trying to piece together her broken heart and understand how it had all turned into such a cruel lie. Every time she thought of Arthur, she felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a longing she tried to deny. Arthur, on the other hand, was living in a state of deep regret. The arrogance and confidence he always displayed were gone. He couldn't bear the thought of losing Clara, and, for the first time in his life, he was willing to open up completely, to be vulnerable. He knew he had to do something extraordinary to prove his feelings were real. One night, Clara was in her apartment, looking out the window at the city lights twinkling in the distance, when she heard a soft knock on the door. Her heart skipped a beat as she recognized Arthur's familiar figure on the other side, looking worn out and tired. She opened the door, hesitant, without saying a word. "Clara, please, just hear me out," Arthur said, his voice hoarse and trembling. "I know I don't deserve another minute of your time, but I need to try. I need you to know that, as much as I started this in the worst way possible, my feelings for you are real." Clara crossed her arms, her gaze firm and distant. "Arthur, I've heard these words before, and all they did was hurt me. Why should I believe you now? What's to say this isn't just another move to satisfy your ego?" Arthur swallowed hard, feeling frustration and desperation grow inside him. He knew words wouldn't be enough this time. He had to do something different, something that came from the heart and showed the truth of his feelings. "I can't change what I did, Clara," he began, his voice almost a whisper. "But I can change who I am. And for you, I'm willing to be the person I've never been for anyone. I want you to know that I'm here, not for a bet, not for pride, but because I love you. And I only realized how much you meant to me when I felt like I lost you." Clara blinked, surprised by the vulnerability in his eyes. She had never seen him so stripped of his defenses, so naked in his fragility. He really seemed different, as if he was finally confronting his own weaknesses and flaws. "If you truly love me, Arthur," she said slowly, feeling pain and love mix in her words, "then you need to give me space to figure out if I can trust you again. I can't just ignore everything you did. You broke my trust, and that doesn't get fixed with promises." Arthur nodded, his eyes shining with unshed tears. He knew Clara needed time, and he was willing to wait as long as it took, even if it killed him inside. He took a step back, respecting her need to be alone, but before leaving, he handed her a small envelope. "If you decide to give me one last chance, I'll be waiting for you at our favorite place tomorrow night," he said, his voice breaking with hope and fear. "If you don't show up, I'll understand and won't bother you again. I promise." Clara took the envelope, looking at it without opening it, while Arthur slowly walked away, disappearing into the night. She sat down on the couch and finally opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside, there was a handwritten letter from Arthur, and she began to read, tears silently streaming down her face. "Clara, writing this letter is the hardest thing I've ever done. For the first time, I'm completely unmasked. No excuses, just me, the person I was too foolish to show you before. I don't have the words to explain how much I regret starting all of this as a bet. Treating you like a game when you should have been treated like the most precious thing in the world. I was stupid, selfish, and blind to what was right in front of me. You taught me that true transformation isn't about what others see in you, but about what you see in yourself. And when I saw the strength, beauty, and truth you carried inside, that's when I knew I was lost forever. You changed everything for me, Clara. You are the only person who made me want to be better, not out of pride or for what others think, but because being better is the only way to be worthy of you. If I could ask for one more chance, just one last chance, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm telling the truth. And if you decide you never want to see me again, I'll understand and I'll accept the pain I deserve. But if there's a small part of you that still believes in us, I'll be waiting for you. Forever yours, Arthur." Clara closed the letter, her heart a whirlwind of emotions. She felt anger, sadness, and a love that refused to fade. The choice in front of her was the hardest she had ever had to make. Believe that a person can change or move on and leave the past behind. The next day, she spent hours wrestling with her emotions, each minute a battle between forgiveness and self-preservation. When night fell, she knew she had to make a decision. Clara found herself walking toward the place where Arthur had promised to wait. Her heart was pounding, each step filled with hesitation, doubt, and a struggle between reason and feeling. When she arrived, she saw Arthur standing alone, his eyes fixed on the horizon. As he saw her, his gaze lifted, full of surprise and hope. "I didn't come here to give you a definitive answer, Arthur," Clara said, her voice firm but soft. "I came because there's still a part of me that wants to believe. I can't promise it will be easy or that I trust you right now. But I'm willing to try, as long as you are too." Arthur stepped closer, not touching Clara, but with eyes full of silent gratitude. "I will spend every day trying to regain your trust, Clara. I'll never give you a reason to doubt me again. And even if it takes time, I'll never stop proving that my feelings are real." Clara looked at him with a faint smile, still unsure but hopeful. She knew the road ahead would be tough, filled with ups and downs, but something inside her told her that maybe it was worth the risk. And for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that things could be different. In that moment, both knew that the real gamble they had taken was for love, not victory. Arthur Montenegro believed he was ready to face any challenge on his journey to win Clara back. He was determined to show he had changed, that the manipulative man he once was giving way to someone capable of genuine love. However, fate seemed to have other ideas, placing a final test in his path, a revelation that would change everything. As he worked to win Clara's trust again, Arthur noticed something different about her behavior. One evening, after a simple and intimate dinner at Clara's small apartment, she seemed more thoughtful and distant. Arthur tried to reach for her hand, but she gently pulled away, taking a deep breath before speaking. "Arthur, there's something I need to tell you," Clara said, her voice trembling slightly, filled with emotion and hesitation. "Before we decide to move forward with this, you need to know something that could change everything between us." Arthur felt a knot form in his stomach. He knew something serious was coming, but nothing could have prepared him for what Clara was about to reveal. "Arthur, when I found out about the bet, when I realized you had been playing me this whole time, I was devastated." Clara paused, struggling to keep her composure. "And it was then, in a moment of weakness and pain, that I made a mistake. I turned to someone else. Henrique?" Arthur froze, feeling as if the ground had disappeared beneath him. Henrique's name was like a knife through his heart. He remembered all the disdain and sarcasm Henrique had shown, and now his greatest enemy had infiltrated where he was most vulnerable. "You did what?" Arthur asked, his voice barely a whisper, but loaded with raw pain and growing anger. Clara lowered her eyes, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. "I was destroyed, Arthur. I thought you had never been honest with me, and Henrique. He was there, offering me comfort when I felt most alone." Arthur stepped back, his mind in turmoil. The pain he felt hearing that was unlike anything he had ever experienced before. He always knew he was playing with fire when manipulating Clara, but he never imagined that his own manipulation would lead her straight into the arms of his rival. "I didn't do it to hurt you," Clara continued, her voice weak but firm. "I did it because I was confused and lost, and at the moment, I thought he was the only one being honest with me. But now I see that Henrique didn't want to help me. He just wanted to defeat you. He wanted to destroy you through the one place you were vulnerable. Me." Arthur felt his heart shatter at her words. What started as a cruel and calculated game between friends had turned into an emotional battlefield where the true cost was Clara's love and trust. "So what was it for you, Clara?" Arthur asked, his tone softer now, almost pleading. "Was it just revenge? A way to hurt me like I hurt you?" Clara shook her head, her eyes locked onto Arthur's. "No, Arthur. I realized I was just a pawn in a game that we both played in different ways. But I also realized that, despite everything, I fell in love with you. And that's a feeling I can't ignore, no matter how hard I try." Arthur closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the intensity of Clara's words. The sense of betrayal still burned inside him, but he knew he had no right to judge. He had started this chain of events, and all she had done was react to his own deceit. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. A familiar figure appeared at the bistro door where they were seated. Henrique, with a cynical smile on his face, approached them, radiating smugness. "Good to see you both together," Henrique said sarcastically. "I just came to see if the great Arthur Montenegro finally learned that playing with people's feelings can be costly." Arthur stood up, his eyes burning with controlled anger. "You took advantage of Clara's most vulnerable moment to try to destroy everything I was trying to build. You didn't do it for her, Henrique. You did it out of hatred for me. Henrique shrugged, the smile never leaving his lips. Maybe that's true, Arthur, or maybe I showed Clara who you really are, a fraud incapable of truly loving anyone. Before Arthur could respond, Clara stepped forward, interrupting the exchange. Her face was calm, but there was an intensity in her eyes that silenced both Arthur and Henrique. Enough, Henrique, Clara said, her voice firm and resolute. You took advantage of my pain to feed your own ego, but it doesn't matter anymore. I don't need you to show me who Arthur is. I know who he is, with all his mistakes, his flaws, and yes, his desperate attempts to change. And that's why I'm here with him, not you. Henrique was visibly shocked, at a loss for words. He didn't expect Clara to take such a firm stand against him. Arthur, on the other hand, felt a wave of intense emotions wash over him, a mix of relief, love, and gratitude he had never felt before. Clara turned to Arthur, her expression now softened, and took his hand. I'm not forgiving you for the past, Arthur, but I'm giving you a chance to prove we can have a future together. Not perfect, but honest and real. Arthur, holding Clara's hand as if it were his last chance, felt a lump in his throat as he struggled to find the words. Clara, all I want is that chance. I'll spend every second of my life showing you that I'm not the same man who hurt you, that I'm willing to fight, not to win a bet, but to be worthy of your love. As they looked at each other, they both knew that despite all the challenges and betrayals, there was a flame between them that couldn't be extinguished. They had faced their own demons and the manipulations of others, and now they were ready to build something real, together. The challenge wasn't in forgetting the past, but in accepting it as a lesson to become better people for each other. And finally, in the reflection of their eyes, they realized that the true transformation wasn't just Clara's or Arthur's, but the love that had grown amid the lies and betrayals. It was a new beginning, not perfect, but real, honest, and most importantly, built on a truth they had decided to face together. Do you think Clara was right to forgive Arthur? Share your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Your participation means a lot to us. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Thank you for watching.